Inside the Birds is back with Geoff, Mosher, and Adam Caplan.
That's right. Inside the Birds is back. What a great introduction by my daughter. That is the great Raina Mosher, a huge Inside the Birds podcast fan, to introduce for the first time an Inside the Birds podcast. So Adam Caplan, Geoff Mosher. Adam, now you might find this hard to believe, but I discovered that she wanted to do this because she would come into my room and ask me certain questions about things you said or I said on the podcast. I said, how'd you know that? She says, "Oh, I've been listening to the podcast. 8 years old, listens to Inside the Birds, and asked if she could do an intro."
She belted it out very well. Very nice.
You should see how much time she did practicing just that. She was very excited.
Nervous at all? She just
she just banged it out. It was great. Excellent job by Raina Mosher there. Really proud of her. So hope the listeners got a kick out of that. It is the bye week. It is the middle of the week. So we will still do what we normally do in the middle of the week, and that's give a film review of the last game. The Eagles, obviously, with a huge win over the Dallas Cowboys and capping a great weekend in Philadelphia sports. We got a lot to talk about there. And then we will, on what did we settle on Friday? We're going to sort of, with no game to preview, we're going to we're going to kind of go through the team at the break there, right? And kind of, address what they're looking like. Is that what we said?
Bye-week self-scout, kind of the way we see it.
Right.
We'll address the trade deadline stuff. You're not getting any big names, barring something unforeseen. We've been saying that for like a month now. I don't think anything's going to change because their needs are different than in 17. They just I don't think they see it the same way. Plus, you always have to ask yourself this question: if you're bringing in a player, who's he replacing? If you want a frontline player, well, who are they going to bench? That's the thing. They have their lineup. It's people want Brian Burns, but first the Panthers do not want to trade him. Like they made McCaffrey available. They're okay to move him. They want a lot, but I don't know if they'll get a lot. But the Eagles are not looking for that type of running back anyway. If they did anything, a running back would be a guy with size. Plus, McCaffrey's got a huge salary next year. And the Eagles are not looking for a guy who's got hurt a lot. Like, did they love him in 17? Yes. You and I know that. We talked about this when we were hosting the draft with the Fanatic. That you would ask me who they were going to take. I'm like, they're going to take McCaffrey. He's there. Sounds crazy, but they're going to give in to the running back. But that's 6 years ago. It'll be 6 years ago this draft. So
unbelievable
change. I don't see that happening, barring any highly unforeseen. But they'll be in the market for a couple things here, and we'll talk more about that on Friday's show.
All right. So look forward to doing that. And we'll have some special stuff for the bye week as well. We're not going anywhere. Eagles are off. Inside the Birds is not. We will keep doing what we do. And in fact, last night we did our second ever, we're doing once a month now, our second ever Ask ITB live stream for our Patreon subscribers. Really had a great time doing it. Nice to interact with our subscribers, get to see them face to face. They talk to us a little bit. So that was really fun. If you missed it, you can still become a Patreon subscriber at any time. Just go to patreon.com/insidethebirds, become a subscriber. And then you will all of a sudden be, everything that we've done so far will be unlocked and available to you. You can even go back and see our first Ask ITV live stream that we did 2 months ago. So really excited about that. And we're excited about our next show for our Patreon subscribers only, which will feature, we can kind of come forth with the name now.
Announce it.
Yes, the former NFL defensive coordinator, Paul Gunther. He has worked for some legendary coaches, and he's worked for some good franchises, the Bengals, the Raiders. And again, he's been a defensive coordinator. So just like what we did with John DeFilippo, we're not just going to lob him questions about the Eagles. It's really a chalk talk series, and we're going to really get him to explain to us what it's like making play calls in a game, how the game plan comes together from Monday through Sunday. We'll spend a good amount of time with him like we did with Flip and really kind of see what life is like as an NFL defensive coordinator.
No doubt. In fact, it's funny. I talked to him in August. I said, hey, what do you know about the defense? He goes, oh, they'll run a lot of what Vic does.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay. I guess everyone knows. Oh, yeah. He goes, now that they have better talent, they can really do a lot. And it's funny. There's some stuff that's over my head because it's not like I coached. I can talk some of the jargon, but he goes, okay, here's what we did with Zim. Here's what Fangio wants to do. Here's the concepts, and so forth. It's actually fascinating to discuss this. And as you were talking about, we also want to know, because we talked with John DiFilippo about how he puts a game plan together. John had been a coordinator with the Vikings, the Jaguars, quarterback coach for so many teams, and Brown's actually his first one. But that's what got him head coaching interviews,
right?
Because he did such a brilliant job with very little talent. And Paul is a protege of Marvin Lewis and Mike Zimmer. And his first job, I believe, was with the then Redskins in the early 2000s under Marvin Lewis, when Lewis was the coordinator before he became the Bengals head coach.
Yep.
Marvin brought him with him. And then obviously he and Zim worked together. And but the cool thing, we're gonna talk about this part of the leadership part of Paul's career. Almost no one knows this. You would really have to know to follow his career. He was a head coach at Tiny or Sinus College in Collegeville behind King of Prussia.
Yeah.
At 25 years old.
Now, didn't he attend that or was he just a coach there? I thought he also attended.
I think he attended, yeah, and I think he might have been a grad student. He'll tell it. I don't know the whole story.
Right.
And then his college roommate. It's either his college roommate. It's a pretty good trivia question. College roommate or coach with him. I think it was his college roommate. Dan Mullen.
Really?
Dan Mullen. Yeah, crazy. Former college.
That's crazy.
I know.
How about that?
Yeah, so he's got some great stories. You know, I asked him on Tuesday or Monday, I said, hey, we're going to ask you this question because I'm just curious, because I always wonder who gave you the hardest time, which coordinators, which players. And his response to the toughest receiver he went up against probably was surprising people, tight ends, and just the way that trends where the league is going. And also he did watch the Eagles-Cowboys game. He definitely has some great intel on what he saw there and what they're trying to accomplish. Remember, he grew up in this area, so he knows it pretty well.
Yeah,
and knows a lot of the coaches and executives with the Eagles. So it's gonna be a fun show. This one will probably be an hour, like the DiFilippo one. And this is what we're doing. And then another thing we're going to announce. Actually, you and I talked about this, but we know we're going to go where this. We're going to talk to the former NFL team doctor who's going to help you learn when you watch TV what to look for. And actually, on coach tape, it's going to teach you how to look for spot sprains and tears and stuff. Yes, you can do this. We're going to do it. And we're only going to do it for Patreon subscribers. And then we got another one, which I haven't told you about. I'll tell you off the air. I got another one that I just thought of this today. And I'm like, oh, I forgot this guy's out of work. I got to get to this step before someone else does. This is kind of what we're doing. We're trying to get to people before anyone else can. You know, we're leveraging our relationships. So these guys have done us right. We got another concept we're going to bring to you. And then who knows? Maybe we'll do a roundtable with some of these coaches. We got a lot planned for Patreon only. This we cannot put on YouTube. It's for all you Patreon subscribers. And remember, a lot of the proceeds on our Patreon page go back into our company in terms of redistributing it for paying for bills and for the most part for bringing new talent.
Yeah, bringing in talent and shows, right?
Right, and that's the big thing, big reason why we're doing it, to help defray the costs. It's costly to pay people, and we're happy to do it.
Yep.
And then we're hoping to bring in new players next year in addition to our Q&A. We're phenomenal.
That's right.
So keep doing it. We appreciate the support. We appreciate the comments. It's been unbelievable. In fact, we got a couple suggestions for guests for our Patreon, and Geoff and I will discuss it. A couple of them are pretty challenging. A couple of them are really high level. I don't know if we can. Some guys are out of work. They're gonna be tough. We will have to really plug away. But then we're definitely going to get some ex-NFL executives who are perfect to talk about what the Eagles are going through now, because some of these guys that we know have been through this, so it's all good.
There you go. All right, you had mentioned Q&A. They had a great show this past week. I'm not just plugging it. There were some really interesting things that they discussed that are really relevant to not only what's going on with the Eagles, but even in the city. They started off the show with some really good anecdotes about what it's like being a player in the city when several teams are doing well the way the Phillies are right now. And of course, the Eagles undefeated and the Sixers about to start. And hey, the Flyers are 2-0. And of course, the Union, can't forget about them, top seed.
Right.
You know, I think that they have a chance to go to the conference finals and then maybe further. But they were really interesting. They had good stories, really funny stories from both Quentin and Jason about just what it's like the synergy between the teams. So you got to check that out. And I also thought that they are through the roof about the Eagles being 6-0. But they're like us, I think. Not, I don't just mean us as in me and you, Adam, but I'm even seeing it from some some comments like everybody's very happy with the Eagles being 6-0, but there are certain things that sort of concern you going forward that you would just like to see them self-scout this week and clean up. And whether it's the lulls in offense and we'll probably get into this in the tape review, there are some times in their passing offense where what they're trying to accomplish versus the down and distance against the defense doesn't seem right, whether it's the route concept or the protection or whatever's going on there. So we'll get into that, but they had the same kind of outlook on that too. They talked about the running game and the RPO game, and both of them had really interesting stuff to say about Chauncey Gardner-Johnson as well, CJ Gardner-Johnson. So very much worth a listen, the Q&A show. It always is, but I thought that, this week more than ever with the bye coming up, they sort of took it upon themselves to do not just a Cowboys wrap up, but sort of a self-scout about what they think the Eagles could really do to take the next step going forward. If you look at the 2017 team, I think when they went to 4-1 or 5-1 by beating the Panthers on Thursday night, I started to realize, they were better than I thought, and they were starting to do some really special things. And then Adam, it got to 6-1 and then 7-1. I think they won 9 or 10 straight games. And probably when they beat up on the Bears or Broncos in late October, November is when I sat there and said, this team might go to the Super Bowl. It really,
the Denver game, right? Because didn't he flip on our show? Didn't he say
he said the well? It's funny. He never actually mentioned which game it was. He wasn't sure, and we thought it was maybe the Broncos game.
Okay, because he said he knew that everyone pointed to the Carolina game because that was an amazing. Was that a Sunday night or Thursday?
It was a Thursday night. That's what made it. It was a road Thursday night game after a big win the week before against
Wentz was
maybe the Chargers or somebody. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a shame that he's a shell of his former self, but the thing that I love about Hurts before we're getting started now. One of the things I love about Hurts, and people want him to take more risks. That's more of a coaching issue. I don't have a problem with this last game. There were a couple of throws he could have made, he should have made, but he doesn't turn the ball over. I believe they're plus 12, if I'm not mistaken. They've won the turnover battle every game.
Right.
That is amazing. The championship teams. This is the one that Dick Vermeil talked about. There's a number I have to find out he would always come with, like, he knows Vermeil when he do Georgia show on the Fanatic. He would always have these numbers that were given to him. If you do this, you're going to win like 80% of the time. It was a turnover battle. If you win, and I think it's like 80% of the time you win. But it's certain metrics. If you're like plus 20 for the season, you almost get to the Super Bowl every time. Whatever the metrics are, the Eagles are just don't turn it over. The pressure is getting there now. The post-snap disguise, which we were told was going to happen, it sure as hell didn't happen last year because they didn't have the horses, so to speak, in the backyard. They have them now, and it's look. This is a really well coached team. I think we all know that. The people are on Gannon. A lot of it's unfounded. I know people are killing them for the second half. Okay, I don't completely disagree with you, but there's a reason for it, which we'll get into. But this is, as we head into this breakdown here, just understand this is the toughest it's been for for teams. So many teams are blowing leads. A record number of teams are blowing leads for like 6 weeks.
Yep.
Teams are closer than ever. Points per game are down by about 7 points per game over last year, which is almost historic in this passing era. So understand it. It's just not easy to play Super High football.
Adam, I think there's a lot of reasons that we have talked about and will talk about for why the Eagles are undefeated 6-0 and atop the NFC East. In my mind, unquestionably, number one is what you just said, the turnover ratio. Turnover ratio wins games. And it's so lopsided, like you said, plus 12, which is hard to even think if that's sustainable or not. But I mean, I keep saying that, and they keep producing turnovers.
I think so.
And keep holding on to the ball. And it's really more, I don't know if the takeaway number that they have is sustainable, but I really admire how this team, and Jalen Hurts in particular, protects the ball. To me, that is the sustainable part, because we've seen that now, even going back to last year, where if he has a couple of turnovers like he did against the Giants in like 3-1 game, that's such a rare thing. He is a very good caretaker of the football without being a game manager either. He's not a guy who's just dinking and dunking and just taking the outlet that's closest to him. A lot of guys are good at securing the football like Alex Smith, but they also don't take shots downfield. Jalen Hurts will take shots downfield. Do I think they need to take more? Yes, they can and will probably. But I think that is the number one reason why the Eagles are one of the best teams. Now, they're ranked very high in your power rankings on InsideTheBirds.com. You'll have to go to the website and read the story. But most people will tell you the Eagles, Bills, Chiefs. Those are the top 3 teams in the NFL, and then it gets really mediocre quickly from there. But yeah, I think turnovers, takeaways, and ratio is the number one reason why the Eagles are where they are. It's a team stat, by the way, right? Because giveaways and takeaway. I mean, it's offense and defense. It's protecting and taking.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They don't have they played 6 games. They only have turnovers in 2 of them, which is incredible. Their penalty numbers are down now. The last game, even with Lane Johnson going out, they only had 2 penalties. Dallas had 10. I know people were killing the Eagles last year at the start of the season. They in fact, they did the Detroit game, but you knew that would be cleaned up because Sirianni's not going to stand for it. He's demanding. He's a player. He's got this rare ability to be demanding, but yet be a player's coach. And the players clearly buy in. They buy in from the coaching, the camaraderie, the connection. They got it going on. Now the debate will be, we're probably going to discuss this a little bit more in one of our shows for the Pittsburgh game. We're going to start comparing the 17 team. Why? Because the Eagles are undefeated. And look, this team has a chance to do something special if this keeps up. As you just said, turnover. If you win the turnover battle, continue to do it, you can go a long way. But I'm curious to see the differences between the 2 teams. I think that team might have been more veteran. They clearly had some good young players there too. Corey Clement, who unfortunately was really never heard from after that. You just look at he was sort of the unsung hero. What an unbelievable story.
Oh my God, dude. Yeah, especially in the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah. Oh my God, Super Bowl hero.
Unbelievable.
So look, you look at this game, right? Let's get into it.
Well, real quick before we get into this, I have a question to ask you. Do you know what VPN stands for?
Yes.
You do.
VPN, virtual private network.
Absolutely. That's great, man. That's good. That means you are someone that our listeners should be. That's someone who understands the importance and the need that we all have for internet security, online security. We've talked about this before. We think it's essential. And NordVPN has created an encrypted tunnel for your data. NordVPN, this is the company you got to get at. We talk about how important they are. They created an encrypted tunnel for your data, which helps you protect your identity and your information because it hides your IP address, which means you can go online from almost anywhere safely and securely, and you get that extra layer of protection. It's like a safety net for what you're doing online.
Yeah, it's NordVPN. To be clear, it's NordVPN.
Did I say?
You said Nordic.
Oh, I'm sorry. NordVPN. Yes, NordVPN, NORD. So third parties can't be spying on you, and neither can your internet service provider. It helps you secure your data, lets you access blocked websites without revealing your identity or location, which can happen, by the way, if you're overseas. And if you're a lot of people travel around the world these days are global, but they want to access things back home that certain foreign country may block, but NordVPN would help you get into it and access it. You can use your public Wi-Fi without having your identity stolen, or it makes it very difficult to get malware injected, which I think is important for everybody because we all use Wi-Fi out there in the public. And it helps you also avoid any kind of unlawful government surveillance, which, we have no idea what's going on. You don't want people looking at your stuff. And of course you can share from peer to peer a lot easier too, if you're sharing items and work related things like a lot of people do when they're at the coffee shop, but they're trying to get work done. So whether you're a gamer, a traveler, a freelance journalist, a student struggling with the school Wi-Fi, so you go somewhere, it's better Wi-Fi, a business person who's always out and about, it helps everybody. So grab your exclusive NordVPN deal by going to nordvpn.com/ITB to get a huge discount off your NordVPN plan plus 4 months for free. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. All right, so that's nordvpn.com/ITB. People, please take advantage of this. I am a big proponent of online security and safety. And, guys in our line of work, Adam, tend to be because we're traveling a lot and we're always on different Wi-Fi signals. So we can't emphasize enough that you really should look into NordVPN.
Well, it's funny because I knew who Nord was when we were contacted by them. I actually looked into getting their service because it's just what you said. I keep getting worried when I travel because like if you go into Starbucks or any hotel coffee shop, you don't know who's looking at what you're on your computer with malware and these ransom stuff. Absolutely, it's worth it. I know exactly who they were as soon as we were contacted. But yep, big time company, very well respected, and I love the discount. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. The discounts you're getting. So it's nordvpn.com/ITB, and it'll come right up to it.
There you go. All right, let's get into this offensive film review. Obviously, typical of the Eagles, start off hot. Take advantage of the opportunities, put a lot of points on the board. Then not necessarily after that, not as good. So where do you want to start? Quarterback, offensive line? What do you want to go with?
This is easy. So what they did was fascinating here. They were going to put Micah Parsons in conflict. We actually talked about this in the pregame show with Von Cosell, that this is going to be fast because there's no way you would know what they would do.
Right.
But it's something that we talked about, and this is exactly what they did. They had him, the RPO game, they did some zone read. They put him in conflict. Well, he wasn't the only one, by the way. Banner Esch or whoever's at linebacker. I understand they didn't have like the 20, 30-yard dashing runs. They had plenty of short, like 5, 6, 7 runs. Those are huge. That's what you're looking for, quite frankly. The other ones are more luck than anything. Or just they're just not realistic. You're going to have them throughout the season. But this one, they put him in conflict. They ran right at him. Now the second half, they started to figure some things out. They started to adjust. Obviously, whatever halftime adjustments could be overrated. Yep. They did some adjusting, and I know Dan Quinn was not happy. His press conference on Monday and Tuesday, you could tell he wasn't happy. No one's been able to get him. No one has been able to move the ball like the Eagles moved the ball, and if going up 20-0 was stunning. I know they only wound up scoring 6 points after that, the touchdown, and they missed the 2-point conversion.
Right.
But they moved the ball, and the thing that was interesting, for the first time all season, I kind of felt this was the case, but I wanted to look it up, and it turned out to be true. It's the first game that they ran the ball more than they threw it. Why? Well, they got up big, real big,
and early. Yeah,
they took the air out of the ball, which is why people want to know why 25 pass attempts, because they got up so big, took the air out of the football. The second half, they were not going to put the ball in harm's way. I don't agree with it, but that's just me. I thought you could still be aggressive. I thought the one person said to me they started getting beat on what Eagles were doing. Maybe the coaches might disagree. Maybe there's some throws that were there that didn't happen. But someone I really trust said they really started to be in the right place this time, Dallas. And the other thing is, we'll talk more about this at receiver, but it's the first game where they were not taking shot plays. Coaches may argue that there weren't any there. Hard to argue against that. The tape that we were told just didn't show a lot of opportunity. But that, to me, it was very clear that they were coming in. They were gonna get these linebackers in conflict. In the first half, it was sure as hell worked.
Right.
Even like everything they tried worked. It was it's pretty remarkable to score 20 points against that. I never saw that coming. I know people now are going to say Dallas defense isn't very good. You clearly haven't watched them before this game.
Oh,
I give the Eagles credit. The coaches did a phenomenal job. But overall, this was some execution. Hurts was really good in the first half in terms of executing the short area pass game off the RPO. And boy, does he hide it well, man. Wentz did not handle it well when he was here. There's one area when he was a stud. He didn't handle. Sometimes he didn't hide it well. Boy, Hurts had him going on that first half.
Yeah, he did. So they go up 20-0. They have a great first half, really good second quarter. And if you look at their first drive of the third quarter, they did come out throwing. Hurts had Goddard for a 14-yard gain. Then Miles Sanders only gets one. So it sets up a 2nd and 9. And Hurts threw, and I think he got flushed from the pocket. If you remember, he kept his eyes downfield, but there was nothing there, and he threw it out. Now it's 3rd and 9. And then on the next play, he got sacked. It was a 0-yard sack, if you remember. I think he had, it was like, I thought it might have been an RPO, and then he tried to kind of keep it, and then there was nothing there. They got up on him quick. So I don't know. That was 4 plays. They called 3 passes. So was it that they got conservative maybe with their routes? I'd be interested to hear more because I don't. It's not like to me they all of a sudden shifted into run mode because they're up 20-0. I just felt like what you said. Dallas started to catch up on a few of things that they did, and
they jumped some routes. They were not getting the separation. When the RPO is working, you're going to see space in the pass game. They were not getting that space.
Mm-hmm.
And Hurts was just not as accurate. But quite frankly, he only threw the ball 8 times in the second half. So,
yeah.
And every game they run more plays than the other team.
Mm-hmm.
The time of possession was skewed in the second half because Dallas had it more, but they had it. It was to the point in the first half they were moving the ball so well.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking they're going to score 35 to 40 points. I mean, it's just it was just it was a massacre in the first half where the coaches did. There's no way to know this for sure, but their advanced scouting on whoever does their advance clearly did a good job of giving them what they kind of thought Dallas would struggle with.
Right.
And the coaches obviously watch the tape, so they have their own notes.
Mm-hmm.
But kudos to the coaches and their advanced people for the first half, just on anticipation of what Dan Quinn does, because no matter what Quinn tried to do, they had an answer for it. That's tremendous coaching. That's why they're 6-0, quite frankly. The staff has made a major jump. We don't talk about this enough. They made a major jump. They learned from their mistakes from last season.
Mm-hmm.
Better talent, obviously. That helps. But we'll stick with offense right now.
Yeah,
they've done a good job. And obviously managing Hurts, who was impactful, particularly in the run game.
One last thing on their passing game that I just creeps up 1 or 2 times a game and I've talked to some people about this too, and they would agree, is that first of all, when they run an RPO on 3rd and long, it does not do them any benefit because the time that it takes to fake the handoff, especially against a defense as good as Dallas is, they get up on you so quick. It's hard for Jalen to be able to make a read and a throw when he's already faked the handoff against a 6-man rush or a 7-man rush. There was a 3rd and 7 in the 3rd quarter. I think this is the play where Jalen I think Jalen might have got sacked on this. This is the second possession of the 3rd quarter where they had to punt again. 3rd and 7's long, so you need to run vertical routes. I get that. The play design, Dallas sent a lot of play. That was one of their bigger blitzes, which they don't do a lot of, but they sent guys. But we talked about this with Doug Peterson's last year when everything went wrong. Like, I don't know how you're expecting Jalen Hurts to complete a pass on 3rd and 7 when you only have when you got 3 routes running like 20 yards down the field. And plus the protection was getting a little skittish because of the injuries on the offensive line. I thought you needed like a diversity of routes, some high-low, because if he's got to wait to be able to throw the ball that long, then the defense gets up on him and he gets rushed. So I feel like they need to do a little bit better job with their route concepts at times on 3rd and long. Yeah.
In fact, they're not good on 3rd and long. That's where they've struggled. In fact, 3rd and 3 or less, they're one of the best teams. They might be the number 1 team.
Because of the threat of being able to run there, right? They have people guessing, right?
Yep. And then 3rd and long, in fact, I'd like to see him under center more. I know that this is not what they're doing. They did preset motion. They did some good stuff. In addition to the RPO and zone read stuff, they did some orbit motion, which they do every once in a while. Mm-hmm. Motion for them is a changeup. It's not what they do. It's clearly just a changeup. But you know what? They selectively do, and it seems to work. To be honest with you,
yeah, it does.
When they do it does work. I got to give Sirianni credit. I still think they should do more, but it's hard to argue. I think we nitpick when we look for stuff to criticize sometimes with this guy because he's just been I don't want to say a shock. He's been surprising. He just seems to have the pulse of what works and what doesn't work, and he's still evolving. And also the OC Steichen's now calling the plays, but they did a really good job this first half.
What'd you get on the offensive line? Obviously, Lane goes out, so Driscoll has to play right tackle. And I'm not the man's defense attorney, but that can't be easy to be right tackle, then left tackle, back to right tackle. There were times that I guess Opeta came in for a little bit, and who else? Did Dickerson go out? Yeah, that's what Opeta came in. And then Mailata had a really nice job. Listen, range of motion was an issue for them. We weren't, wrong about that. And he was wearing they even mentioned it on the broadcast. He was wearing a protection on his shoulder, which we had reported last week that he was going to have to wear. I'm wondering though, did you get what kind of feedback? I mean, did he get challenged a lot? Were they trying to go away from him?
He did well. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he did well. I don't have other specifics because I asked that question to somebody who graded the tape and said, look, he said, what number is he? 60? Is he 68?
Yeah, 68.
Yeah, you said 68 did well because again, he's got these damn pro guys. They always say numbers. Because all the players now are able to choose their numbers. I get like, all right, I know 7 is Reddick. So I used to know the Eagles numbers by heart without looking, but I can't do it anymore. I have to look up. Okay, wait, because it doesn't correspond with the position anymore.
Right.
God forbid linemen wear like 30s or 20s, like they can't. But it's funny.
Sure.
But Mailata, yeah, he did well. He played. By the way, he played every snap. Kelsey played every snap. Malo, he had a very minor ankle injury. He played through it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like Dickerson. Dickerson only missed 3 snaps. So that's,
right.
It's not like
right. It wasn't that long. Yeah.
Right. It was just it was with Lane missing. Lane only played 37 snaps.
Mm-hmm.
Driscoll. Okay, so Driscoll. Here's the thing, and Trey Thomas told us this because I'd asked him this. One of our shows. So what's it like to go from left to right or right to left? He goes, it's hand usage, it's setup, it's so different, the mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's played both because we'd said all along he's a right tackle guard, best at right tackle probably. He had some snaps, particularly in the second half. That as you would expect, they made sure sometimes they overloaded his side or made it hard for him. They ran at different guys at him, which is good coaching, and he had some struggles with it. But he's getting good snaps here.
Mm-hmm.
I think in the second half, they gave up some pressures. They gave up some plays, which they probably like to have back, but you could expect that. And the bye, it's funny. I thought the bye, you always want the byes to be a little later, past the halfway point of the season. But because the linemen are so beat up, maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe this is a good time, week 7, because to get all their ankles and Mailata's thing's going to be there for a bit, as we understand it. He just, he's learned how to deal with the pain thing very well. Right. Now he knows how to get through it. He wears he's just a mindset. You heard Kelsey talk about this. When you deal with injuries, you what you have to do to get yourself ready.
Mm-hmm.
Kelsey, he's had some injuries and getting Dickerson off his feet. I don't know what it is with the ankle foot stuff, which he's had since early August. So maybe at least for their offensive line.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Running game, Adam, was really good. It became the savior of the team yet again when they really needed to hunker down and get points again in the fourth quarter. They had that really nice long drive that was mostly runs, and there was a nice pass to A.J. Brown that he turned into a big gain, and then, of course, a touchdown to Devontae Smith. But really, that was a drive that was built on the running game. And once again, we've talked about this for a while. Miles Sanders runs hard. I mean, he's running with determination. He's running with effort and energy. He's not the perfect running back, but he's really given everything he's got on every carry.
He's a more well-rounded running back now.
Mm-hmm.
Gets got the tough dirty yards, not home runs. Gainwell, okay. Gainwell is completely different than he was at Memphis. And first of all, they're not using him the way that Memphis. He was basically a slot receiver, or he actually ran line up at X a little bit. His role here, I would, I'd love to know if they thought he is a tough runner. I don't know if he's put weight on. I don't want to call him a grinder. That would not be fair. But boy, he gets so low, and you could see why they play him in the 2-minute or 4-minute.
Yep.
And why they think he could grind up carries. Who saw this coming?
I don't know. I know that when they drafted him, they weren't thinking that's our closer, that's our power back, our goal line back, our short yardage back.
It's really crazy. Now, it doesn't mean his role won't evolve into, because he's playing in certain key moments, but he might be their hurry up back, but they're never behind. That's a thing.
That is true. That is true. It's amazing we didn't even get a chance to see Trey Sermon again. Well, I guess because Boston Scott played. So
yeah. Scott looked healthy coming off his rib injury. Sanders is, you could see that. You know what? Also, I like the lower body because it's stronger now. He put some mass on his legs. It's helping him. He's decisive, downhill vision, sets up blocks really well. Ball security phenomenal. Kudos. Let's give Jamal Singleton a shout out. Their outstanding running backs coach.
Yeah.
He is one of the best in the league.
Doing a nice job.
Paul Gunther told me he coached with him with the Raiders.
Yeah, and with who?
With the Raiders, Paul.
I would have thought it would have been in Cincinnati because I know that.
No,
that's
right. Cincinnati they weren't together in Cincinnati. That was much later.
Gotcha.
That was one of his most recent jobs. But Singleton actually, coached Chad Hall at Air Force.
There you go. Right.
So, but that was running back. So I'll tell you what, they're doing a good job, and I'll tell you, coaching matters, folks.
Well, yeah, you bring that up, and I'll give the staff credit because they took something that wasn't broken and changed it a little bit anyway, and I think it's been good. And they were a 2-man rushing operation last year, 3 if you count the quarterback, but we're not. They basically said we're using 2 running backs. All right. This year, as you saw on Sunday night, they're not afraid to use 3 running backs. Right? They use Boston Scott, they use Kenny Gainwell and Miles Sanders. For whatever reason, they said, "Hey, we have I guess a good wealth of running backs here. Let's use them all and not just be 2." I don't know if you're getting anything different from Boston Scott than you are with Sanders or Gainwell, but it doesn't matter because they're all getting positive yards.
Yeah, and look, Scott's shown the ability to grind out yards. He's been a good story development for them, and he actually had more carries than Gainwell in the game, so that it was. Yeah, you're right. You know, it's funny because we said in the season we had no idea whether they're going to be 2 or 3 running back team. Our guess would be 2 because that's all they've done.
Right. Plus, with the quarterback running, you didn't think that there would be room for 4 ball carriers.
Exactly what I was going here. So it's 3 running backs plus Hurts. It's working. So here's the question. We'll talk more about this in the Self Scout show, but do they even need a power back?
I don't think so. I really don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, not enough to give up an asset for it, even if it's a 5th or a 6th. I mean, you know, that's why Trey Sermon's here. If one of these guys gets hurt, or if he just continues to evolve within the offense, that's fine.
Yeah, he won't be active. To me, as long as these guys are healthy, he doesn't need to be active. So that was that. Receivers, there were no shot plays at all. This is the first game they really didn't take shot plays. What we were told is there weren't many opportunities for it, but here's what they did. They got some anticipated coverage. You saw early on when they threw the football, Brown was going to get it. He leveraged. He got open. I just think that they kind of knew what they were going to get from Dan Quinn because he does a lot of pre-snap and post-snap movement, but they found holes in their area, in certain areas. They got Smith over the middle. Goddard had a bad drop. I know it was off deflection, but I'm sorry. You can't start running before you have it. He's got this bad habit of doing that's just got to stop. It's really a rally killer because that would have been for a big play. Right. They call explosive plays.
Yeah.
How about Jack Stoll? I thought that was Goddard run. That was actually stolen.
I know.
It was a beautiful catch and run. Real good throw.
Definitely.
And he was wide open because there's certain voids in the Cowboys coverage they found on the edges. But then right next to the numbers, they were able to do that. And that was it. Yeah, that they had it going on. Well, at some point with the self-scout, though, they got to get Watkins the football more downfield. That's got to happen.
I would agree. I just think shot plays in general will help them as they start to face some stiffer competition. In I guess like November when they finally do face some stiffer
Cowboys, Packers, right? Giants, by the way, who are no joke. Boy, they're good on defense.
Yeah. All right. Before we get to defense, let's remind everybody about this great app that we partner with, Mojo, that allows people to test their sports knowledge in a fantasy football style, but also in a stock market style. You can do that with Mojo. It's the sports stock market. Basically, you can buy shares of players. Mojo makes available quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, right? That's your skill position players. You can buy shares, and that'll entitle you to a great payout based on career-ending statistics. So, I mean, this thing can go for the long haul for a player's career. That's what I love about it. It's like dynasty league type stuff. You can get a rookie, like a Dameon Pierce. You could have bought really low, Yeah. Ramondre Stevenson is a guy named brought up, and then watch him have great careers. And then when you cash out and you buy into somebody else, it's just a fantastic way to kind of play the stock market from a sports standpoint. And prices will go up. They'll go down if players don't do well. And the cool thing is you can just build a whole portfolio, Adam. That's what people like to do on Wall Street.
Mojo.
Buy their favorite stocks. Right. In fact, I was going to ask you about a couple of players who see if you'd buy stock in it or not. But let me just tell people that Mojo's available in New Jersey on iOS. And just by downloading the app, you've got a chance to win up to $10,000 in free shares of player stock. There'll be a link in the description box of this podcast, either on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts, for a chance to win $10,000 in free shares of player stock. You got to be 21 and physically located in New Jersey to trade on Mojo. If you got a gambling problem, help's available at 1-800-GAMBLER. So let me give you an interest. So Jalen Hurts, for example, he's about $50 a share, which is up over 43% since the start of the season. Is now a good time to buy into, like, can he get a lot better? Do you buy now? Do you hold steady, or do you sell? Thinking
Hold
that he
steady.
can't
I
be
wouldn't
this good
sell.
the rest of the way. You would not sell. I wouldn't either.
No, I see. It's a stock market game, so you're trying to predict the future. It's the stock market. But to me, I just think he's going to be solid. Remember, you don't have to worry so much about passes. It's touchdown runs. He's still. Look, the running game doesn't go for him like it did last year. Like it was pretty much him. He was kind of the guy. Didn't he lead them in rushing last year?
Yes, he did.
Right. So he's not going to this year Sanders will.
Right.
So, but the great thing is he'll score. He's going to score inside the 5. He's going to have he easily 10. I mean, he might get rushing touchdowns like 12 to 14. He may only have 20 passing touchdowns, but he's going to get the job done. Like I'd mentioned a couple shows ago. Remember, I said get Kenneth Walker now that Penny's out for the season. He's going to be the guy. He's really gifted. Look what he's done. He's pushing Kurt Warner over Penn State running back star for most yards in his first 3 starts.
Right.
So yeah, you want to get in early.
Yeah. How about this interesting one? Cooper Rush's stock plummeted by 11% after that awful performance against the Eagles. But you know what, Adam? My brain says this guy is a good backup. He's played well. That was his first bad game. Dak is going to be back. That doesn't make him irrelevant. In fact, right now, you might want to get yourself some Cooper Rush stock. All right. Knowing that Dak's been hurt he was hurt last year because Cooper Rush had to start one game. We know he was hurt 2 years ago when he hurt himself in the preseason, right? He missed almost the whole year or whatever it was when he hurt his ankle or foot, whatever it was. So I'm thinking if I can get Cooper Rush really low right now and anticipate that he might have to start 2 or 3 more games, and Dallas has a really light schedule, just like the Eagles, you can watch him rebuild and then sell him when Dak's about to come back before he bottoms out. I'm just saying it's it's a strategy. It's all if you're really forward thinking, second level thinking. So get our friends with Mojo. It's a great app. It'll be a fun time if you really love fantasy football and you think you're good at the stock market too, but you don't want to really go out and invest in like businesses you never heard of. You know these football players. That's the advantage that you have. All right. Let's talk about Eagles defense now and get the film review on them.
Oh, this is fun.
I mean, this was a very rare secondary first game. Like the secondary won this game. Wasn't because the sacks were all over the place like Washington. This was guys just batting down passes, picking them off. It was really, really interesting to watch.
This is a Gannon game here. Here's what happened. We had said in our pregame show that the goal here is to make Rush a passer, and boy, did they make him a passer. The Eagles the offense helped them out. They got a big lead. They mixed up their coverages really well. They made Rush indecisive. He made some bonehead decisions. I mean, he's never played like this. And they got him. I mean, they had him dead to right. They had 3 turnovers, three picks. He looked awful the first half. The game was really over in the first half. I know that scored. You'd asked me through text, I know we talked Monday, and you asked a great question in regard to the game flow. Did I ever feel like when the Eagles blew the lead, well, they didn't play flow completely. It was 2017, not 2020, or they didn't trail. But when they gave up 17 straight points, no, I was never. I've never like the Lion game concerned me because they're incredible. By the way, the Lions in a way have better total talent at the wide receiver and tight end positions. They just don't have. Although Goff's played well, Dak's obviously better, but I just never felt that they were going to choke this game. And they were so good in the first half. Again, I know they had a big lead, but it wasn't that had less to do with it. It was just the way that they mixed up their coverages. Their man coverage was up. Their zone exchanges were good. The communication was good. They had some issues in the third quarter. But man, this was their D line. By the way, I know it'll never show in the stats, but Brandon Graham looks incredible.
Yeah. He hit Cooper Rush on that underthrown pass that was picked off, I think, to CeeDee Lamb, and
that was it. exactly why. He looks unbelievable. His energy's infectious. He looks great. Also a good start on the D line here.
Yeah, people ask us about Jordan Davis still a lot. When's he going to play more? When's he going to play more? I mean, we keep answering the question, but yeah, exactly.
He looked good. By the way, his technique, we're told, is so much better.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, his snaps are down, but he's actually technically started because they're starting with this 51 front.
Right.
We're going to talk to Paul Gunther about that to explain the thought process, because I know he ran a bear front, which is a 5-man front, but it's different. The philosophy is a little different.
Yeah.
Because I know I've talked to Paul about that over the years, but this one was interesting, and I know that they pressured Rush. It's just they were all over it. I know people are pissed off at the run fits. Okay, I'm going to explain what the issues or kind of what the challenges are here. Now, on that, before we move to linebacker, what's happening here is some of the players are so used in their career, like Fletcher Cox, and Sweat, and others, that they're used to getting like vertical, which means upfield.
Mm-hmm.
They're not used to playing flat or playing read and react, and it's just a mindset. You have to retrain your brain to play differently than you were taught for your career and played. It's not going to happen overnight for these guys. They're going to. Their mind tells them
year two of it. I mean, we're now a year and a half.
Well, this is really it is, but it's different this year because they're running the full Gannon defense like he wanted to run it.
Yeah,
he's not making many concessions like he did last year to get Cox comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Now, 75% of the time they're doing it like they're taught, and they're just. I'm not putting. To be honest with you, it could be any of these guys because this is all new to these guys.
Mm-hmm.
These guys didn't play for Gannon in Minnesota or wherever he was.
Mm-hmm.
Not in the front. Anthony Harris did, but he's DB. He didn't play very well. But fact of the matter is, it's to play flat. There's a certain way you got to read and react, and we'll talk to Gunther about it for him to explain it in layman's terms so everyone can understand. But the way it's explained to me is that you have to understand this is just to get it totally. They're just going to have to give the mindset of rushing the passer like they probably wanted to, but they're getting gashed. It's not a lot, but they're getting enough. Like third quarter, Dallas was surprisingly running, and they got gashed then.
Right.
Zeke's run was really nice. Zeke, who looked like people thought he was washed. He sure as hell didn't look washed in this game. And as you said, you gave the numbers out in our pregame show. What was it, like 1,200 combined yards against the Eagles?
1,300 in 10 games, I think.
Crazy. I know that's like if you extrapolate that, that's like an 1,800 yard season.
Yes.
So rushing and receiving, but so that's it. That it's all clean upable. It's just keep pointing out the details. But yeah, the run.
I'm lukewarm on the cleanupable. I and I've talked to some people about this too. When they do get run on, there's a specific reason. Like they don't get run on when they're in the 5-man front because the offensive line can't double team anybody. They are built when they are in their nickel, their 4-man front. They're not a good tackling team. Let's be very fair. They don't tackle well. We've seen missed tackle. I think they're among the leaders in the NFL in missed tackles. And a big reason of that is
it might be their front though.
When their front gets double teamed and driven off the ball, those smaller linebackers are now behind the 8 ball. The gaps are tougher to get into, and they have to make a lot more head-on tackles. And Kazir White and TJ Edwards are good. TJ Edwards is a little better at it, but again, they're not the biggest guys, and really that's the whole league. But and their safeties are not real true strong safeties either. And CJ Gardner-Johnson is a nickel playing safety. So if a back like Zeke or a good offensive line like the Cowboys have, when they can get those guys into the mid to second level, that's why you see those runs get extended because they're not a great tackling team. And you're right, it's on the front, and they don't play the run that well in those four-man formations.
The linebackers actually play the run real well. The problem is what happens is when they don't get cleaned up up front, when the front doesn't clean them up, it makes them look worse. It makes them. This is the problem with Singleton last year.
Mm-hmm.
And plus, it was just the scheme. It just was not for him. And he's actually starting now. He actually had a very good game on Monday night. But fact of the matter is, if the front doesn't do its job, it makes the linebackers not as good. In fact, White played really well.
Yeah, he broke up a couple of passes. He's all over the place.
He's really good. Like I give the Eagles credit. I don't know who wanted him here. I don't know if it was Gannon or the GM or whoever the hell it was, but he's been. I mean, if you want to make an argument that he's better than T.J. Edwards, I'm not going to argue against you. You're probably right because he does more. Because he has to do more. He has to do certain things.
Sure.
and he's a rusher. They'll use him and they look at the B
Yeah,
gap.
they've used him as an overhang guy too. I mean, they've really.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I mean, who knew? I guess I guess Gannon saw stuff on the Charger tape. Who knows? But he's a really good football player. He's very vocal, excellent in coverage. This is a hell of a signing, man. Talk about a bargain signing that looks like it's going to be a home run. Right now, it's a home run.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so that's pretty much what we talked about. Linebackers, D-line, the DBs did a great job. Do we have anything else on the defense that we've missed?
Just would tell you that their coverages were so good. Their man coverage in particular. See, here's the thing: Michael Gallup is not even close to what he was before the ACL injury. CeeDee Lamb's not explosive at all. He's an inside receiver, plays physically, and he's good running after the catch, but he's not fast. Dalton Schultz didn't play, who crushed them last year in the game at Dallas. You're not like if you're I do wonder, because I know some players do this. Sometimes they go to their D corner and said, "Hey, can we play more man coverage?" Because I don't know if they did this, but I know players will do that because their man coverage was good in this game. I mean, I know third quarter they got some plays. Oh yeah, because they backed off. Is what happened. The tape shows that they played. They were not giving up plays over their head. What really helped them is their coverages were so tight in the first half that Rush had literally sometimes no idea where he was going with the football. That's how good it was.
Yeah, it was excellent. All right, well, listen, our next podcast will be Friday, and we're going to go through a little self-scouting with the Eagles. It's probably going to be a pretty positive, optimistic podcast because the Eagles are 6-0. Not that they don't have things that they can correct, but we will have some good
three
stuff.
or four things we've not talked about, honestly, that they would dig up from some people that point some stuff out to us, which we talked a little bit about, but not for a while.
Right.
Some stuff's obvious, some is not. Then we're going to take a look at the trade deadline because I've had questions on Twitter about this. Mike Gill asked me that on the show this week. What could they do with the trade deadline and what kind of players could they target? And we'll have them for you on Friday.
All right. Sounds great. That's going to do it for this episode of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles Intel. Big thanks, as always, to our producer, Tyler Strasser, does a great job. And as always, we thank you for flying with us inside the birds.